Right. So we are studying section 2.2 of the Chartered Accountants Act, which is talking about members who are deemed to be in practice. Right, in which we saw question number 1, select to agree, yes, to recruit personnel and also conduct of training programs. Right, so let us see question number 2 over there. Right, P, a CA in practice provides management consultancy and other services to his clients. During 2005, looking to the growing needs of his client to invest in the stock market, he also advised them on portfolio management services whereby he managed the portfolio of some of his clients. And now portfolio management not allowed. Acting as advisor consultant to an issue allowed, but portfolio management specifically not allowed. Right, so as per section 224. Then a clause of the aforesaid resolution allows a CA in practice to act as advisor or consultant to an issue, yes, including matters such as drafting of prospectus, filing of documents with SEBI, preparation of publicity budgets, advice regarding selection of brokers. It is, however, specifically stated that CAs in practice are not permitted to undertake the activities of broking, underwriting and portfolio management. Thus, the CA in practice is not permitted to manage the portfolios of his client, and therefore Mr. P is guilty of professional misconduct. Right, so again question asked in November 2015 also. Right, then come to question number 3, which is a bit different one. A CA in practice has been suspended from practice for a period of 6 months. During the said period, though he did not undertake that audit assignment since he had surrendered the COP, he had appeared before the income tax authorities in his capacity as a CA. So he did not take any work in his capacity as a CA, but he appeared before the income tax authorities in his capacity as a CA. No, he cannot take up any other practice separable from his capacity to practice as a CA. Once he is bound, once he is surrendered his COP, then he cannot put the provision separately that, see, I am not doing any practice, I am only representing the client. Right? So that is why he is again guilty of professional misconduct. What does it say? A CA not holding a COP cannot take up any other work, as it would amount to violation of the relevant provisions. In case a member is suspended and is not holding a COP, he cannot in any other capacity take up any practice separable from his capacity to practice as a member of the institute. This is because once he becomes a member, he is bound by the provisions of the Act and the regulations. If he appears before the authorities, he is only doing so in his capacity as a CA and as a member of the institute. Having bound himself by the Act and the regulations, he cannot then set the regulations at naught, that even though he continues to be a member and has been punished by suspension, he would be entitled to practice in some other capacity. Yes, thus he will not be allowed to represent before the tax authorities, hence he is guilty of professional misconduct. Right. Yes, so those are the 3 questions, rather first 2 questions mainly regarding section 224 and regarding the rendering of the other services, then a chartered accountant is deemed to be in practice. Then after that we have section 9, which is regarding the constitution of the Council of ICAI. I told you, wherever it is asked, okay, who has said so? It is allowed or not allowed. So who has said so? The Council of ICAI. So this Council of ICAI has 40 members in it. 32 elected by the members from amongst themselves. So every 3 years, the ICAI elections take place. And so 32 members elected by the members from amongst themselves and 8 nominated by the central government. Because ICAI set up under an Act of Parliament. Right, a statutory body established under an Act of Parliament. So 32 elected by the members and 8 nominated by the central government. And these 40 together run the entire functioning of ICAI. Then from that they form different committees, like you have the Accounting Standard Board, you have the Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, you have the Direct Tax Committee, Indirect Tax Committee, you have the Peer Review Board, you have the Finance Committee, Examination Committee and so. Right, so that's the entire functioning with the Council of ICAI. Then section 24, which is regarding penalty for falsely claiming to be a member. And now what does it say? Penalty for falsely claiming to be a member. Means you not be, there are 2 types of false things which could be over here. One, you not being a CA, but you're telling everyone that I am a CA, cartoon artist. You understand now? Not being a CA, but you're telling everyone that no, I am the CA. Or second, you are a CA, but you're not a practicing CA. But you're telling everyone, अरे no, अपना बहुत बड़ा practice है, 10 year, 12 year, 50 year का practice है. You understand? So not being a CA, you're telling that you are a CA, or you are using the description designation of a CA. Or not being a practicing CA, you're telling everyone that you are a practicing CA, you have a certificate of practice. Yes, then you are, it says that penalty for falsely claiming to be a member. What does it say? First conviction, 1,000 rupees. Subsequent conviction, 5,000 rupees, imprisonment, or both. Cheaper than the CA course? You understand? Yes, penalty for falsely claiming to be a member. Not being a member, telling that you are a member, or not being in practice, saying that you are in practice. And first conviction 5,000, 1,000, subsequent conviction 6 months or 5,000 or both. Right, next one, section 26, unqualified persons not to sign documents. Now see, the term is very big. They are not saying report, they are not saying financial statements, they are saying documents. Unqualified persons not to sign documents. Right, your principal in office would have delegated to you all official as well as non-official work. But one work which your boss would have never delegated to you is the task of signing. You understand? No, he would never say, okay, tomorrow I am not able to come to office, so you please sign this certificate and issue it to the client. You understand now? You sign this report and you issue it to the client. Right? Why? Because section 26, which is regarding unqualified persons not to sign the documents. No person other than a member of the institute shall sign any document on behalf of a CA in practice or a firm of CA in its professional capacity. What is the punishment? First conviction, 5,000 to 1 lakh rupees. Subsequent conviction, 10,000 to 2 lakh rupees. Imprisonment or both. Right, so here rather the penalty is higher, if you allow an unqualified person to sign a document on your behalf. So even an employee of the firm who is not a partner of the firm, he also cannot sign on behalf of the firm. Okay, right. And now say you provided services to a particular client. And a chartered accountant provided services to a particular client. And this client is unhappy with the services provided by the chartered accountant. Or one chartered accountant has a complaint against another chartered accountant. Or the bank wants to file a complaint against the chartered accountant. So any person who is aggrieved with the services or the work which has been done by the chartered accountant and they want to file a complaint against this chartered accountant, where can they file a complaint against this chartered accountant? With the disciplinary procedure of ICAI. Right, so the institute has a disciplinary directorate having its head office in Delhi. An office situated in Delhi, right? A disciplinary directorate of ICAI, wherein any person who has a complaint against a member of the institute can file a complaint with the disciplinary directorate along with the prescribed fee. Then at the disciplinary directorate, there is a director discipline. There is one person sitting over there who is called as the director discipline. He will prima facie go through the complaint. So, you say, okay, what, just say any product, if you are not satisfied with the quality of the product, they say, no, you can give your feedback on so or so number, or you have a consumer code for the same. Similarly, if you are not happy with the services of a chartered accountant, then you can file a complaint with the disciplinary directorate. There is a director discipline who will prima facie go through the complaint and check whether it is related to the first schedule or whether it is related to the second schedule or both the schedule. I told you, two schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act, the first schedule and the second schedule. If the complaint is related to the first schedule, he will further refer to the matter to the Board of Discipline. So that's another body which has been put up, the Board of Discipline. And if the complaint is related to the second or both the schedule, he will further place the matter before the disciplinary committee. Then the Board of Discipline will go through the complaint, and these are the following actions which they can take against the member. One, reprimand the member. What is reprimand? Give a warning to the member. Last time, not to do this again. And reprimand the member, that is give a warning to the member. Second, remove the name of the member up to a period of 3 months. Yes, or impose a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh. So reprimand the member, remove the name of the member up to a period of 3 months, or impose a fine of up to rupees 1 lakh. Second schedule or both the schedule, then the matter would be referred to the disciplinary committee. What are the actions which can be taken by the disciplinary committee? Again, first one same, reprimand the member. Second one, remove the name of the member permanently or for any period. So what you understand is that the second schedule is much more stringent as compared to the first schedule, or impose a fine of up to rupees 5 lakh. Right. The member is aggrieved with the decision given by the Board of Discipline or the disciplinary committee. Then further an appeal can be filed with the appellate authority within 90 days. The member is aggrieved. Then what? Further a appeal can be filed with the appellate authority within 90 days. And what are the actions which can be taken by the appellate authority? Yes, confirm, modify or set aside the order. Remit the case for reconsideration. Reduce, enhance the penalty, or pass such order as they consider fit. I think in your DT, IGT also you study the procedural part, and there also you study the powers of the appellate authority. The powers are similar. You understand? Right. So that is regarding the disciplinary procedure of ICAI and a Board of Discipline and Disciplinary Committee. Reprimand the member 3 months permanently or any period, and 1 lakh and 5 lakh. Right. Then after that, now I come to the next case study oriented section. That is section 27, which is regarding the maintenance of branch offices. First section which we had seen, exam oriented case study, section 2.2. Members who are deemed to be in practice. And now what is the second case study wala question section? And a maintenance of branch offices. Before I go to branch office, tell me, how do you define an office? How would you say? Madam, see, your CA ka office is there. Madam, see, there is a CA ka office. Yes. Wherever a name plate or a name board of the firm has been fixed, that has been defined as an office. And wherever that address of that place has been given in the stationery of the CA firm, in the letterhead, in the visiting card, then that is again defined to be a office of the CA. Okay, so now what is the main definition of office? Wherever a name plate or a name board of the firm has been fixed. Right, so outside the firm, yes, what should be the name of the firm? A and Company Chartered Accountants. Right, so it should be the firm's nameplate. Because wherever a nameplate or a name board of the firm has been fixed, that is defined to be the office. And what about the residence of Mr. A? Outside the residence also, can he put a nameplate A and Company Chartered Accountants? Because if I put that nameplate outside my home, then that will become office only, no? You understand? So outside the home, CAA, ACA. Right? So outside the residence, individual member nameplate. What if I have my office at home? Then no problem. Then you can put the firm nameplate outside your home also. What if I have my office at home? Then can I put the firm nameplate outside my home? Yes, in that case, yes. But if I don't have my office at home, then can I put the firm nameplate outside my home? No. Outside the residence, individual member nameplate, and outside the firm, firm nameplate. Because what is the definition of office? Wherever a nameplate or the name board of the firm has been fixed. You understand? Wherever a nameplate or a name board of the firm has been fixed. Right? Come to question number 1 for the question bank of this section 27. XY and company or firm of CA having 2 partners X and Y. One in charge of head office and another in charge of branch at a distance of 80 kilometers. Puts up a name board of the firm. Puts up a name board of the firm in both premises and also in their respective residences. Outside the residence, firm nameplate not allowed. No. What does it say? Puts up a name board of the firm in both premises and also in their respective residences. So can you put the firm nameplate outside your residence? No. So that is why guilty. So the council, who has said this? The council of ICAI. I told you now, wherever it comes, okay, who has said so? So the council of ICAI has decided that with regard to the use of the name board, there will be no bar to the putting up of the name board in the place of a residence of a member with the designation CA, provided it is the name plate of an individual member and not of the firm. In the given case, and therefore the CAs are guilty, and the distance given in the question is not relevant for deciding whether you should put the nameplate of the firm outside your residence. Even though if it is next door, you should not put the firm nameplate outside your residence. Do you get that? Okay. Now, can a chartered accountant have more than one office? Right. Then that more than one office will be referred to as the branch office. And what is the golden rule for the branch offices of the CA? Then I'll be also teaching you a lot of exceptions to this golden rule. But first, what is the golden rule for the branch offices of the CA? That each branch office of a CA, each branch office of the CA should be under the separate charge of a member of the institute. Each branch office of the CA should be under the separate charge of a member of the institute. This member of the institute, he may be your partner or he may be your employee. But what is required is a separate charge. Okay, each branch office of the CA, there should be one CA. Right? So say interdynamic, CA dynamic has 10 branches. So at all his 10 branches, there should be one chartered accountant working over there. Whether he might be his partner or he might be his employee. What is required is active association with the branch office. What is active association? When you've attended the office for at least 180 days in a year. You understand now? So each branch office of a CA should be under the separate charge of a member of the institute. You cannot, have 7 branches and at all the 7 branches you only have all those BCom graduates working over there. Then you will be guilty of professional misconduct under section 27. Because each branch office of a CA should be under the separate charge of a member of the institute. However, there are a lot of exceptions. Yes, first set of exception where no separate charge is required. तुम्हें समझ रहा है ना मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ? है ना? Where no separate charge is required. है ना? कि no CA required at the branch. First set of exception is for chartered accountants who are practicing in the hilly areas, पहाड़ों में. You understand, no? Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, any hilly area. For chartered accountants who are practicing in the hilly areas. It says these CAs who are practicing in the hilly areas may have a temporary office. See, they are not calling it as the branch office also. They are calling it as the temporary office. In the plain areas during winters, when these regions are not accessible for a period not exceeding 3 months in a year. These chartered accountants who are having their office pahadon mein, they can have an office in the plain areas, a temporary office in the plain areas during winter when these regions, those hilly areas, regions are not accessible for a period not exceeding 3 months in a year. Like I can give you an example, say AS Foundation first floor office, the renovation was going on say some 2-3 years back. So, entire renovation, right from the civil work, light and electrical work, everything was being done again. So for that time, when that work was going on over there, our entire first floor office was shifted to the 3rd floor. And it was shifted to the 3rd floor. And once the work happened, it took some say 3-4 months to complete the work. After it was done, again the office was shifted back to the 1st floor. So it's like just a makeshift arrangement. Na? If your house is under renovation, you go to stay elsewhere on rent. And once the renovation is done, you come back. So here also, what does it say? During the winter season, okay, these chartered accountants having offices in hilly areas, they can have a temporary office in the plain areas. What does it say? Regular office need not be closed. So they are not using head office and branch office. They are saying regular office and temporary office. Need not be closed. So, both the offices may be open. Then the name board of the firm should be put outside the temporary office. TO matlab what? Temporary office. Only for the period when you are operating from there. So you are working from the temporary office only for 2 months in a year. So obviously for what time should you put your nameplate outside the temporary office? Only for 2 months, not for the entire year. Then the address of the temporary office. The address of the temporary office should not be mentioned on the stationery of the CA firm. It's because it's just a temporary office. So it should not be mentioned on the stationery of the firm. And then last one it says, before you start operating from this temporary office and after you stop operating from the temporary office, an intimation is to be sent to ICAI by registered post acknowledgement due. By registered post acknowledgement due. You are required to send an intimation to ICAI, the date from which you started operations from the temporary office and the date from which you stopped operating from the temporary office. And is this temporary office required to be under the separate charge of a member of the institute? No, no separate charge required. Right, so this exception is only for those chartered accountants who are practicing in the hilly areas. Now, second set of exception is for all chartered accountants, whether practicing in pahadon mein or not in the pahad. And a second set of exception is for all the chartered accountants. Now, here also the exception is for the second office. They are not saying branch office. They are not saying third office. यहाँ पे क्या term use किया है? First office and second office. What do they say? If the second office is located in the same city. So I have one office on Tilak Road and I have one office on FC Road. So FC Road office, is it required to be under a separate charge of the member of the institute? No. But I have one more office in Baner. Then that becomes my third office. That requires a separate charge. The exception is only for the second office. If the second office is located in the same city or if the second office is located in the same accommodation. So in the same building, I have one office on the first floor and another office on the 7th floor. So can they be under the same charge of the same person? Yes, no separate charge required. Very obvious, if same city is allowed, same accommodation will be to allowed only, na? Right. Or if the second office is located within 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city, within 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city in which the first office is located. If the second office is located within 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city in which the first office is located. Can anybody explain? Second office is located within 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city in which the first office is located. Right, so this is my first office and these are the municipal limits of the city in which my first office is there. Now, second office over here, so no problem at all. You understand? But now what they are saying? Municipal limits ke bahar 50 kilometers. You understand? 50 kilometers. If I have a second office over here, what does it say? No separate charges required. The member itself can be in charge of both the offices. If my second office is outside 50 kilometers, beyond 50 kilometers, then separate charges required. And what if I have a third office within 50 kilometers? Then again what is required is a separate charge. What did I tell you? The exception is only for the second office. Only one office. One main office, and in addition to that, one more office. So what does it say? If the second office is located in the same city, or if it is located in the same accommodation, or if it is located within a 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city in which the first office is located. So you know Pune ke wahan it says na cantonment limit begins, cantonment limit ends, or Pune municipal corporation limit begins or it ends. So wherever it ends, beyond that 50 kilometer, in that much premises and area, if the second office is located, no separate charge is required. Beyond that, a separate charge is required. And the exception is only for the second office, not for the third office. And what if it is not under a separate charge of the member of the institute? Then guilty of professional misconduct. Right, so let's read the second question. K, a chartered accountant in practice, yes. You decide. Out of the two offices, you have to decide which is the main office and which is the other office, which is the head office and which are the others. So you can set up a second office later and you can say that this is my head office and the other is the branch office. No problem. Right, yes, come to question number 2. K, a CA in practice as a sole proprietor at Chennai, has an office in the suburbs of Chennai. So suburbs, yani beyond municipal limits. Right. Then due to increase in the income tax assessment work, he opens another office near the income tax office which is within the city and at a distance of 30 kilometers from his office in the suburb. So within 50 kilometers from the municipal limits. For running the new office, he is employed a retired income tax commissioner who is not a chartered accountant. Is it okay? Right. Why? Because it is within a 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city. Comment. Right. And November 12, the question required an assumption. November 15, they made the question more clear. K, a CA in practice as a sole proprietor at Chennai, has an office in the suburbs of Chennai. Due to increase in the income tax assessment work, he opens another office near the income tax office. For running the new office, he is employed a retired income tax commissioner. So in that November 12 question, you had to make an assumption. Okay, these suburbs are within 50 kilometers, so then that commissioner chalega. And if they are beyond 50 kilometers, then that commissioner nahi chalega. But November 15, they further made a clarification in the question. Right. So as per section 27. And so November 15 exam, what happened? They asked a question on section 27 also, and they asked a question on 2.2 also. And I think they asked the portfolio management services, this portfolio management also. So both the questions, and two sections only from which the questions come in the exam, 2.2 and 27. And November 15 they asked a question from both. And sometimes they ask one, like in November 16 they asked none of the questions from these sections. Okay, right. So what does it say? As per section 27 of the Chartered Accountants Act, yes, if a chartered accountant in practice has more than one office in India, each one of these offices should be in the separate charge, technical word no, for section 27, separate charge of a member of the institute. However, a member can be in charge of two offices if the second office is located in the same premises or in the same city in which the first office is located, or the second office is located within a distance of 50 kilometers from the municipal limits of the city in which the first office is located. Then question converted to passive voice, and in the given case. In view of the above provisions, there will be no misconduct if Mr. K will be in charge of both the offices. Additional point, cherry on the cake. However, he is bound to declare which of the two offices is the main office. Yes, he is bound to declare which of the two offices is the main office. Right, so that is section 27, which is regarding the maintenance of branch offices. Then you have section 28, which is regarding the QRB, the Quality Review Board of ICAI. New auditing standards keep on coming. कारों का guidance note ICAI issues, tax audit का guidance note is issued by ICAI, new accounting standards are issued, new industry specific guides are issued by ICAI. Who gives all these inputs to ICAI? कि you should issue a guidance note, you should issue a guidance note for concurrent audit of banks. And they've issued the 2016 edition, concurrent audit of banks. And who gives all this guidance to ICAI? The Quality Review Board. It is the quality check mechanism of ICAI. ICAI does peer review of the CA firm, no? You understand? This QRB does the peer review of ICAI, that type of a situation. And it keeps on making recommendation to the council with regard to the quality of services. Right, to review the quality of services provided by the members and guide the members to improve the quality of the services. Right, and QRB, how many people on the QRB? It says 11 members, 1 chairperson, 5 it says members nominated by the central government and 5 elected by the council. Right, what does it say? 5 members of the board shall be nominated by the council and 5 shall be nominated by the central government, and 1 they will have a chairperson. You understand? So that is the QRB, the Quality Review Board of ICAI. So it's a separate body which has been set up for reviewing the quality of ICAI, to keep on giving recommendations to the council to improve the quality of services and to review the quality of services. Right. Then after that, now I come to the Code of Ethics. Yes, yani ke what are the fundamental principles for a professional accountant, which I had also discussed with you in essay 200. You understand? IOC CPT. Integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, professional behavior and technical standards. This entire 2 schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act, those 34 clauses of ethics, have been introduced in order to ensure compliance with these fundamental principles. Right. And in addition to these fundamental principles, or you can also call them as the ethical requirements, what is that additional requirement for a CA? Independence. We are keeping on using this term, no? Ethical requirements including independence. So what are the ethical requirements? IOC CPT. And independence, what did we say? You know, remember I discussed with you in essay 200, not only independence in appearance, but also independence of mind. And you know, when I discussed with you SQC 1, I told you there should be policies and procedures in the firm to ensure compliance with the ethical requirements including independence. LEHEM, that E over there was for ethical requirements including independence. There I told you that there should be policies and procedures in the firm to identify whether there are any threats to independence. And now whether there are any threats to independence. Like I told you, no, you have to go for the audit of a listed entity from Monday. And they ask you, are you holding any shares? You say, yes, I have 200 shares. What did they tell you? Monday morning, the moment the stock market opens, sell those shares and come. Why? Because it's a threat to independence. What all are the types of threats which could be there to independence? One, it says self-interest threat. Okay, this is the only one client which you have. One big client from which you are getting 40 lakh ka fee. All other client 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 80,000 fee. So just imagine this one client from when you are getting 40 lakh ka fee. And another client from when 30,000, 80,000, 40,000 fee. So this client is so very important for you, no? And most probably you see an opportunity, okay, next year you are going to surrender your COP and then you are going to join the client only as an employee. You are going to become CA in service. So now it's in all, you know, you see potential employment with that particular client. So that's a self-interest threat. Then after that, there could be a self-review threat. What happened? Last year, you helped them with the design of their system. And this year, they are telling you audit the system. Last year, they said, please design the system for us. You designed them. And now this year, they are telling you, see, now please do the audit of the system. It's like, you know, you are being told by ICAI, from this exam onwards, all students are expected to check the paper on their own. Self-review threat, no? You understand? 120 out of 100. Margin, है ना? Safety. Margin of safety you've kept. Mauka mila hai, le lo. You understand? So that's self-review threat. You have only designed. How can you audit? Okay. Then after that, it talks about advocacy threats. Advocacy threats मतलब क्या होता है? Say you are also handling the tax matters of the clients in the courts of law, and you also have to express an opinion on the financial statements. So in the courts, even though if they are wrong, and if you are the lawyer on their side, then you will defend obviously your claimant, no? You will defend your client over there, and here you have to be objective while expressing an opinion. So again, that you are again putting yourself in a difficult situation in that case. And advocacy threats, where you are also giving some legal opinion, some legal advice to the client. Then it talks about the familiarity threat. Last 35 years you've been doing the audit of Reliance. You know, Chaturvedi and Shah. So my God, how much they might not be knowing about their business, you know, nook and corner of their business. And over familiarity, what does it say? That partition or that restriction which is required, that objectivity of opinion has now gone. You've become over familiar with the client. Right. And the last one, intimidation threats. What if intimidation threat? Client is telling you, see, if you qualify your opinion, next year we'll change you. Dekh lena. If you qualify your opinion, you see, we will file a complaint against you in the court of law. Dhamki, dadagiri. You understand? That's intimidation threats. They are intimidating you. If you qualify opinion, next year we will replace the auditor. We will not we will not recommend your appointment as an auditor. They're telling you, next year if you modify this opinion, we will file a complaint against you. A threat of litigation and a threat of getting replaced. Right? So these are the types of 5 threats which have been talked of in the Code of Ethics. What are the threats they are talking about? Self-interest threats, self-review threats, advocacy threats, familiarity threats, and the intimidation threats. What is intimidation threat? And a threat of getting replaced, threat of any litigation going on against you in the court. Familiarity, yes, you have become very familiar with the client. Yes, or one of your relatives are working in the client company. So again, that's what you call as a familiarity threat. Advocacy threats, self-review threats, and the self-interest threats. So you have IOC, CPT, and these are the threats which you also need to address. Okay, right. Right, so Code of Ethics, they have given over there, and November 16, what question was asked? What are the fundamental principles as per the Code of Ethics of ICAI? So that is IOC CPT. And what are the threats involved while complying with the fundamental principles? So actually this was not as such, this has to be with you as a part of general knowledge. You understand? Not there in the content, but just as I told you now, what are the threats that they have identified? Self-interest, self-review. Then the advocacy, familiarity, and the intimidation threats. And rather they've asked a big question for 4 marks. No? It's only a 4-mark question, November 2016. So they just want you to write an overview of the answer. Okay, right. And now finally coming to the 2 schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act. Right, so now I'm coming to the most important part of the discussion. Right, so how many schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act? Yes, how many schedules to the Act? Which Act? Chartered Accountants Act. No, you have the first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act, and you have the second schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act. Right. Under the first schedule, you have 4 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. And Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. And under the second schedule, you have 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Under Part 1, first schedule, you have 12 clauses. Under Part 2, first schedule, you have 2 clauses. Part 3, first schedule, you have 3 clauses. And Part 4, first schedule, you have 2 clauses. So that's 19 clauses in the first schedule. And in the second schedule, Part 1, you have 10 clauses. Part 2, second schedule, you have 4 clauses. Part 3, second schedule, you have 1 clause. So that's the 15 clauses in the second schedule. And that's 19 plus 15 is equal to 34, which is 34 clauses in the schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act. Are you getting? Okay, now listen to me further. Yes, pay attention. I'm at some very important discussion from the ethics. Okay, tell me, how do you read this section of the Chartered Accountant of the Companies Act 2013? How do you read this section of the Companies Act 2013? Exactly. How do you read it? Clause D of subsection 3 of section 141 of the Companies Act 2013. Technically, legally, you read it that way. Okay, so here you have clause, then you have subsection, and then you have the section. Where say in ethics also, you have the clause, then you have the part, and then you have the schedule. First you have the clause, then you have the part, and then you have the schedule. I'm just giving you a ready-made example right now. Obviously, I will be discussing all the 34 clauses in detail. But say in the exam, there is a question asked saying that the incoming auditor has failed to take an NOC from the outgoing auditor. NOC, you know, no objection certificate. The incoming auditor has failed to take an NOC from the outgoing auditor. So he is certainly going to be guilty of professional misconduct. And this not taking NOC from the outgoing auditor is given in clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule. Clause part 1 first schedule, how many clauses did I tell you are there? 12 clauses. In that there is a clause number 8. That 8 is regarding not taking an NOC. Right now I am telling you ready-made. Later on I am going to go over there. So say now in the exam there is a question asked. Okay, Mr. A accepted the appointment without taking an NOC from the outgoing auditor. Is he guilty of professional misconduct? So yes. So how will I start my answer? Those two golden words, as per. Clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule 2. A schedule is never of the act. A schedule is always to the act. Schedule 3 to the Companies Act, not schedule 3 of the Companies Act. Sections are of the act. Schedules are not of the act. As per clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. And then I'll tell you आगे क्या लिखना है. But do you understand 8 कैसे लिखना है? Numeral. 1 कैसे लिखना है? Roman. And second कैसे लिखना है? Spell करके. This is a standard format. Okay, so now whenever in the exam these questions are asked on ethics, we have to identify which is the clause, which is the part, and which is the schedule from which they are asking us the question. So now when I talk of this with you in the class, I am going to say 811. What is 811? Clause 8, part 1, first schedule. Just try if you get this one. You understand? Clause 2, part 1, second schedule. Okay, try this one. As per clause 4, part 2, second schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. You understand? So this is what I call as plotting. In a graph paper also you have x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. No? So here also we have this clause, part and schedule, which you have to identify. Okay. So how many parts are there in the first schedule? 4 parts. Clauses are 12 in part 1. How many parts are there in the first schedule? 4 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3 and part 4. Has everybody got the breakup of the 34 clauses first? Okay. So now I first come to the first schedule. So now I first come to the first schedule. And in the first schedule, how many parts are there? Part 1, first schedule. Part 2, first schedule. Part 3, first schedule. And part 4, first schedule. Part 1 first schedule is regarding professional misconduct. What is PM? Professional misconduct for CAs in practice. So 12 clauses of part 1 first schedule are applicable only for CAs in practice. Part 2 first schedule is professional misconduct for CAs in service, for which I have 2 clauses. Part 3 first schedule is professional misconduct generally, yani ke applicable to all CAs, whether in practice or not, in which I have 3 clauses. And part 4 first schedule is other misconduct generally. You understand? In which I have 2 clauses. So we are so familiar to writing guilty of professional misconduct, not guilty of professional misconduct. And what happens in the exam when the question is on part 4 first schedule also, we write down hence Mr. A is guilty of professional misconduct. Under part 4 first schedule, he cannot be guilty or not guilty of professional misconduct. He is going to be guilty or not guilty of other misconduct. So part 1, 2, 3, you call it professional misconduct, but part 4 is other misconduct. Right, so now what is part 1 first schedule? Pay attention, what is part 1 first schedule? Professional misconduct for CAs in practice. How many clauses are there in part 1 first schedule? 12 clauses. Now before I talk about the content of these 12 clauses of part 1 first schedule, I have a common sentence which I have to say before these 12 clauses. I have a common sentence to be said. What is the common sentence? A chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. So like, you know, if I'm asked a question on this one, that 811. So as per clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, first part of my sentence. Second part of my sentence, a chartered accountant in practice. A chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. And then right now you don't know the wordings of 811, but I am writing it directly over there. You don't know it, I'm just writing it right now over there. We will discuss it later. Accepts appointment as an auditor previously held by another chartered accountant without first communicating with him in writing. Any case not taking an NOC from the outgoing auditor. Okay, this is how the first sentence in your answer of ethics should be. These are the 3 parts in the first sentence which should be there in the answer. As per clause 8 of part 1 of first schedule to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, you can come to the next line, no need to leave a line. You can come to the next line, एक ही sentence के 3 part करने, no need to leave a line in between. A chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. And then you write down the content of the clause. Can you all tell me the sentences for part 2, part 3 and part 4 first schedule, the second part of the sentence? A chartered accountant not in practice or a chartered accountant in service shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. That's the sentence for part 2 first schedule. Part 3 first schedule, can you tell me the sentence? A chartered accountant, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. And part 4 first schedule, a chartered accountant, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of other misconduct if he. Do you understand the first two parts of the sentence? As per dash 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 to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949. And then you have to, four alternative sentences, everybody understands? Tell me the four sentences again. Four matlab part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 ka. Part 1 ka, a chartered accountant in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. A chartered accountant not in practice shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. A chartered accountant, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he. And a chartered accountant, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of other misconduct if he. Yes, do you get that? I'm only talking about the first schedule right now. Right, so have you copied down this sentence? Yes, copy down this. Yes, done? Right, so we will continue tomorrow. We'll do the part 1 first schedule tomorrow.